Hey, how you doing? Today, we talk Bitcoin,
XRP,
cryptocurrency,
and where you can spend it.
and you're not going to be hearing from us either. And it all starts now.
Innovation is in our veins. Soon the whole world will know our names. Sharing our knowledge and freedom reign. We here for the people, you know it's our way. Setting foundations is part of the dream. It doesn't matter if you're new to the game. Listen up now, cause we all gon' say, elevate, 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 higher, elevate, 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 higher. We gon' rise up, we all gon' shine. Work through adversity, stay on the grind. Elevate, elevate, this is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, everyone. It's so great to have you all on one more time. It's your boy, Josh.
Dalton.
And we're grateful to be back on with you again.
It's another week, man.
Another week, another Monday.
Another week. It's been a long time since we've been on the same side of the table, which generally means one thing.
One thing only. We got guests. We have an amazing guest set up who are, I would say, I'm curious if they'll say it themselves, but I would say experts in Bitcoin.
That's how we've been referring to.
Yeah, that's how we know them as.
Yeah.
And we're just going to shift the cameras on because honestly, I could give an intro, but it's just not the same.
It won't do justice.
Exactly. So we'll kick it to them. Who are you? Why are you here? And welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. That intro music, though, do you have a separate file? That was bumping. I loved that. I was dancing in my seat.
Oh my gosh. Love that.
Great. Tell us later because we need something that awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So I'm Mrugakshee,
And I'm Keegan.
and we are hosts of the show Go Full Crypto. And we called it Go Full Crypto because we decided to opt out of the traditional finance ecosystem and go full crypto. So 95% of our portfolio is in Bitcoin. And we're a Bitcoin-based business, and we write cryptocurrency content.
Wow.
So if you're not intimidated yet, I sure am. No,
I know. 95%. I'm like, wow.
So what's that even look like? So like we're like there is no time right now for like friendly talk. I want to get right into it.
Let's do it.
95%. So what's the 5% look like? Is that just like to pay off expenses and stuff that you incur? Is that type of thing?
Yeah, rent and
Right.
insurance and stuff that we can't really pay with our crypto Visa debit card.
Nor would
Got
we
it.
want to. Like,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily want to spend your cryptocurrency, right? So
Right,
we have a percentage we have Canadian dollar cash flow, which we draw from to pay for expenses, and anything like any excess at the end of the month, we throw into crypto to increase our portfolio balances, right?
Understood.
Right.
Yeah. So rent is one example, but like we also have this like handy crypto Visa debit cashback card, so that you load Canadian dollars onto that and you get cash back in crypto. Right. But it also gives us the ability to sell the crypto on the spot, instantly convert it into Canadian dollars, load it onto the card, and then spend it. So we have the ability to spend our cryptocurrency directly should we need it.
Understood. So you can take from your holdings or load it through CAD.
Right.
Interesting.
And that's really convenient when the market is as volatile as the market is, the cryptocurrency market, because if your money is Bitcoin, then you got to spend it somehow. And if it's accessible via that crypto Visa debit card, when the market is high, you can just liquidate some of it to spend, and then you hodl when the market is not doing so well, like right now.
Like
Right. So what does your spending on that card or your spending in general look like right now? Like, are you fully like Canadian right now in wanting to hold that crypto? Like, what's that look like?
What do
Well,
you
we're pretty
mean?
frugal just in general.
Okay. Yeah.
Like we're not going out and buying bling. Yeah, we're
No
not that
bling
kind
here.
of.
Got it.
We're
Yeah.
not like the stereotypical crypto bros.
Absolutely.
You know what
Got
I mean?
it.
Like we're not buying NFTs with our card. Yeah.
Let me tell you about crypto. No,
Yeah.
But, you know, we're healthy eaters. We like to go to restaurants. We enjoy a good cocktail. So, you know, those are the things that we enjoy. And that's kind of our, like, leisure fun. But
Absolutely.
then we also travel all over the world. So, like, spending money on flights and cars
Right.
and good transportation, nice Airbnbs. Like, that's kind of where the majority of our expenses are right now.
Absolutely. Generally just curious because I'm like a point fanatic for credit cards.
Yeah.
Do you take advantage of that when you're traveling? Like, are you huge, like, point calculators, or you just, if that's the flight, I book it?
I'd rather have money.
I absolutely get it.
We
Yep.
used to be like, I remember booking through my bank with RBC, and you get like RBC points. to
Adventure and with CIBC, all those different things.
Yeah. And I've booked through those points a couple of times, but crypto Visa debit, getting cash back in CRO, because we use Crypto.com's Visa debit card, is way better. And I also have a card Visa debit again with ShakePay, which is another Bitcoin Ethereum exchange, but you get sats back, and that is cash back in Bitcoin. And I love that, because that's when the value of your asset goes up over a long period of time, as opposed to cash, or as opposed to Canadian dollar.
Right. The main difference between points and cashback in crypto is that the thing that you get back, like Mrugakshee says, rises and falls in value. But I can also take that cryptocurrency and then do also lots of other things with it, right? I can put it into DeFi, which I'm sure that we might get into. I can stake it for some percentage of a return. And so you can't do that with points.
Yeah,
so
you're stuck in that program.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's a self-contained ecosystem. It's just rewards.
Yeah.
At that point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, definitely. And the one thing I love about the two of you is like your podcast is very informative. Like it's I love it. Like, for example, like when I think it was Mrugakshee.
Yeah, you got it, Mrugakshee.
Okay, Mrugakshee. When he first messaged us about possibly coming on the show, it took a while for us to get back to you. The reason being is because so many people claiming to be crypto influencers always contact us, and I just got to the point of just like ignore them. And then there's one day I was like, wait a second, this one actually seems legit.
Halifax?
Yeah, Halifax. And that was like, at that point, we were looking for someone who was like, had this type of experience in crypto, who happened to be in Halifax. And we just know we were of serious benefit and privilege to have you with us, because you're constantly traveling, and to have you here is awesome. And I just want our listeners to know how lucky we are to have you on the show today.
Oh,
right on.
That's a shout out to my friend Christian, because he listens to your podcast, and he said, hey, you should reach out to them, because they've recorded one crypto episode, and they're in Halifax based, and I like listening to them, so message them and see if you can go on. I was like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christian.
Shout out Christian.
Shout out Christian. Wow.
Let's go. We're here for it. No, I'm literally so stoked, because for me, out of the two of us, I'm like the crypto junkie.
Yeah.
Not saying that I'm any good at understanding it, but I really like trying to understand it. So I have so many questions. So 95% is you're holding. What was the journey like to start accumulating that type of amount of Bitcoin?
Oh, well, it was sort of slowly then suddenly, because we have this piece on our website, and it was the 3 triggers that led us to leave banking behind. And it was, to put it really simply, we couldn't get a mortgage because we had just started a business. And understandably, banks really want to stay cautious of giving money to people that have just started a business.
Yeah.
But then there was another one where we couldn't send a wire transfer out of our account.
They basically just said no.
Yeah, they said, and it wasn't debt. We weren't asking to get credit out of our system. It was money that we owned, or that we thought we owned, but they asked us the reason for the wire transfer. Maybe it was a note or memo, whatever.
And I said,
or whatever.
Cryptocurrency. We're buying cryptocurrency.
Investments, yeah. And then they gave us our client card back, and they said, sorry, we can't do that for you. And we were like, why?
Your money.
We were spellbound at that point. Yeah, because it was we were out for words. Sorry, lost for words. Because how do you react to something like that? And they said, sorry, we just don't deal with cryptocurrency investments. And
so that made us question just the nature of ownership in general. Like we spent
certainly
a couple months just like contemplating, what does it actually mean to own? Right. Yeah, and like this is a big thread in Web3 is just ownership. What does it mean to own something? And like I'm not saying that NFTs actually enabled that. I'm sure we can get into
right. Yeah.
Right click save. But
there was a third trigger.
What was the third trigger?
I don't remember.
Yeah, well, it'll come up. Yeah,
I think it will. But when that happened, we were just really frustrated for not having complete ownership over the money that we thought we owned, or having control over it too.
Was it fees? Because like overdraft fees and in like your
sometimes just to ask for like, heaven forbid you want a paper statement.
Yeah.
Something so simple, $5.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were that had happened, and COVID had also started. So this is 2020.
Yes.
And we did a lot of in-person workshops at that point, but we couldn't do that anymore. So we decided to start a podcast, and we didn't know what to call it, but all of this was coming together because we were frustrated, and we still wanted to get information out to people. So one day we were sitting on our couch, and we were like, okay, Mruga, what are we going to do about this? Because there's no point sitting and complaining about things that don't work for us. And then Keegan's like, well, Mruga, why don't we just go full crypto? And we were also thinking about starting a podcast at the time. So, Keegan's like, that's it. Let's call our podcast Go Full Crypto. And we'll talk about how we're transitioning into a cryptocurrency-based economy and moving out of traditional finance. So that's sort of how the idea started. But then I think this was around July. And then in August, there's a restaurant called Tahini's Restaurant in London, Ontario, and they came out on Twitter saying that they converted their cash reserves into Bitcoin. Around the same time, MicroStrategy was converting it. Keegan and I were learning more and more about money, and the more you learn about how the purchasing power of your Canadian dollar is depleting, well, by the minute at this point, if you were to calculate the past 2 years, it just felt like there was a fire lit under our ass, and we were like, okay, we're saying go full crypto, but we're really not full crypto. So we looked at the savings and our saving account. We were like, why are we putting this in cash? Let's just convert it all into Bitcoin, because Tahini's restaurant is doing it and MicroStrategy is doing it. We can do it too. So we did that for our personal savings, and then a month later we did it with our business savings as well.
Dang.
What do banks think about? Because with personal, not that, but with my business banking, for example, the financial advisors can sometimes be a little bit more in tune with what you're doing. Did you have to ask them if you could do that? Did you have to advise them you were doing it? We
don't have a financial advisor.
Yeah. No, okay, good. Okay.
An extension on the story about the wire transfer. Yeah.
Sorry.
Shut up for not having a financial advisor.
Truth. Yeah.
If your financial advisor has not talked to you about Bitcoin, at least explored that as an option, I would say they're not doing their job properly. That's my bias. But extending the story of us going in and getting a wire transfer, we just went to a different bank, like the same branch, different branch, same bank, and didn't tell them where the money was going, and then they did the wire transfer for us.
Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, you generally want to be careful when you're having conversations about your cryptocurrency holdings with banks, just depending on the teller or depending on the financial advisor or professional in front of you. They're going to either, they could flag your account. I've heard of people getting their account shut down. They get rejected for services, all sorts of things. So you kind of want to just approach that conversation with them very carefully.
Oh,
yeah.
Very interesting.
I remember the third trigger.
I do too.
Yeah.
There it is.
We're on the same wavelength. So this was it was the first trigger really when we started our business. It is called Atlantic Blockchain Company. It's registered as that. And when we wanted to bank with someone, we thought, let's go with a credit union instead of a big bank, because we were under the impression that they're up to date and they are for the people, especially people starting small businesses. And when we went into the office and we wrote down the name of our company, the person we were speaking to, they said, I'm sorry, you can't bank with us. And we said, well, why? And they said that it's because you're doing something with cryptocurrency. And when we started our company, it was simply education. We were not trading. We still to this date, we have never taken somebody else's money.
We've never sold an NFT.
Yeah,
we've never created a token. We've never invested other people's money in Ponzi schemes
and
or
we wrote
that
in the description of our business too, that we're simply doing education. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't. And that was the first trigger, and that happened back in 2018. And progressively, there were more that just led us to be frustrated, very frustrated.
So if you had just had like a numbered company, they would never have known.
Perhaps.
Just because it said blockchain, they...
Yeah.
A lot of them do ask you just what you do and what is the nature of your business.
Yes.
That's a common question, and you can choose to answer that truthfully. But if you eventually intend on being a money services business, eventually the truth is going to come out. Right?
Yeah, and your past might haunt you.
Your past might haunt you, yes.
Yeah.
It's better to find the champions inside the bank, because not everyone inside the bank is adverse to cryptocurrency in general, right? You are going to find some people that want to work with you.
Yeah.
Kraken, for example, their bank is the credit union. The same bank that we went into and asked to get a bank account. Kraken, one of the biggest exchanges in North America / the world, used the credit union actually here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. That's their bank.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You're kidding me. 1 second here. Sorry. I had to verify.
You're good.
Yeah. Dang. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm shook. Anyways,
Me too.
Okay, so the Kraken. I don't care. I'll just drop it. The Kraken is used as we speak as their bank.
That is my understanding.
Wow.
When you send a wire transfer to Kraken, you're sending it to that bank that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, you log onto their website, you say deposit, you say wire transfer, it says send that money to Halifax.
So strange.
That's so gangster. I love that. That was the thing that kind of hit me the other day, is because my wife is never really been one who's like been really into finance. I've kind of taken that part on the relationship, but she recently came into some money that she doesn't really fully know what to do with yet. And so she went to a financial planner to see what could be done. And so I went with her just to make sure everything was on the up and up. Yeah, that's the key. But this was the part that kind of going back to your first trigger, right? Was we were chatting and off the top, because that we were referred to this this financial planner, and so they, our connection told them how invested in crypto I am, and like for our crypto, like 50% of my assets are in crypto right now, and so like she was asking like all of our assets, how much of our money, this and that, and she's like, I don't want to hear about crypto. I was like,
at all?
At like nothing. I was like, that's literally half of our assets right now. She's like, no, it's too volatile. It's useless to me. I was like, well, then we have nothing to talk about. We have nothing to discuss right now. I was just kind of like surprised. I was taken aback by it. I was like, I get like, crypto's in the gutter right now, but like this is going to be the future.
Yeah. Use your future thinking cap.
Yeah. I was kind of like surprised by that. So yeah, like, so I guess kind of moving on forward in that journey that you've been having, you then, you've kind of you just kind of liquidated all your assets, well, majority of your assets. And
we didn't have assets. It was cash.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry, my bad. So it was already
cash
liquid.
Assets.
Yeah. You kind of took those you wired those from a bank right to a crypto address. Is that what happened?
Well, an exchange.
Oh, sorry, an exchange. Yeah.
Because lots of exchanges have business services as well. So, when you say, for example, ShakePay, you can create an account, but for your personal use. But then they also, if you contact them via the website, then you can get a business account with them, which is very good for you to separate your personal finances and transactions from your business transactions.
Yeah, we do everything by the book.
Yeah.
Yes,
right. So everything needs to be segmented, because one day, like God forbid, the CRA comes knocking on our door. But we want to be prepared. I mean, we do have a podcast. We do go on other shows and we talk about how involved we are with cryptocurrency. Like, I can only imagine that we're going to be a ripe target for
an audit.
Yeah. So if we had the business funneling money into our personal cryptocurrency exchange accounts, then, that just gets hairy to untangle.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
And report.
Yeah.
Ben would know a thing or two about Ben's our accountant.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ben.
Free advertisement for him too.
Yeah. He gets a lot of plugs on the show.
He really does.
We've had 2 of his other clients on the show, I think.
Yeah, we actually have a bunch of Kindon shirts out back here if you want one.
I'll post a picture.
Please do.
I mean, to do it by the book from the beginning, certainly, I mean, and that's actually something I've been trying to find is a business account. They don't make it, at least the exchanges I've been looking at, don't make it widely known that they offer these business accounts. I didn't know you had to contact them.
They're sometimes called institutional accounts.
Oh.
Yeah. And
I read that and thought that meant like other banks or like government for some reason. Just the word institution confused me.
Yeah, but it also just means business. And
Got it.
Kraken, I would recommend, same with ShakePay. Those are the 2 exchanges that we use. And if you need a hookup for Kraken, we've got you covered.
Incredible. Good to know.
Good plug.
Wow.
We're here for it. It's almost like you've practiced this before. No, this is great. So kind of going back into it, like I'm sure a lot of our listeners' heads are exploding right now with ideas of what they could do and kind of unleashing or kind of unlocking a lot for them. So I guess for somebody who's kind of feeling, right now with the market the way it is, we'll get into it, but to those who are afraid right now, what would you be telling them right now as things are in the gutter and things aren't looking great?
Afraid because they're already invested?
Actually, yeah, say afraid they're already invested, but afraid to invest more into it and like withholding their Canadian dollars right now.
Oh, it's very counterintuitive, but right now is the best time to invest because there's blood on the streets, and that's when you go and grab as much as you can, right? Like buy low, sell high, and yeah, I mean, as simple as that, buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and this must have happened with you when you talk to people, but it definitely happens with us, is when the market is at its low, nobody's interested because they think that it's done. But when you see these all-time highs, we get the most number of form submissions when the market is at an all-time high, asking all sorts of questions about how they can invest. And that is the worst time to invest because that's when the market is heated up. It's on a bull run. If you buy high, then chances are if the market is volatile, which in cryptocurrency it is, and it is going to be for a little bit, you're going to lose maybe 25% the value of what you've invested and then be discouraged, especially if you're a first-time crypto investor. So right now, for people that are afraid to put more money into, or put more Canadian dollars into cryptocurrency, do your research and make sure if you are investing, then it's for the long term. Because if you want to see a 2x or 50% return, because that's possible with some assets, that's risky. And I'm not, no one can really tell you whether or not that's going to happen. But with any investment, you buy and you hold for a very long time. And that's what I would say. Do you have anything else to add there, Keegan?
Yeah, and maybe just like a general step back, and we're talking about cryptocurrency, but just on a broader note, like the worldwide economy is kind of looking kind of weird right now. And so while yes, it's a good time to buy crypto relative to where it's like the all-time high of all these crypto assets were recently, like I still think that there's some downside left. There's more pain to be had before we see the bottom, and that's just my subjective opinion, but. Like with that, we're dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin every single day, right? Like I think before the show, we said that, this was during the show. We've got Canadian dollar cash flow, right? Any excess at the end of the month, we kind of put in a little pot, and $10 of that comes out every day and buys Bitcoin, no matter what the price is, right? And so as Bitcoin's going down, I'm getting better and better prices. It goes back up. I was buying at 70,000, 50,000, 40,000. It doesn't really matter. It's more putting yourself in the perspective of a long-term, you have to have a low time preference. We have low time preferences. We're into this for a decade or more. Right. So like now's price doesn't really matter if we're on board with where we think crypto / Bitcoin is going in 10 years or more. But
what's important to know at that point is also the amount that you're investing, because you said you buy every single day, but that's $10 every single day. So at most it's like $300 every single month. And you can do that at one time in the month, but in a volatile market that is not recommended, which is why if you set a recurring buy in your exchange for every single day, then you don't have to worry about it, which is the best thing. Like you don't really want to stress about when you want to buy and when the best price is, because depending on what the market does the next day, you're going to either regret it or be happy about it. But most of the time it's regret. Yeah, that's me.
Interesting.
I've been awful. Like I love the strategy. I've heard it all the time. I mean, dollar cost averaging in. I've always taken that as every time I get paid, that's me dollar cost averaging, and that's kind of the money I have.
That's actually that's true though.
Oh, it's still kind of a thing. Yeah. But I think I want to get into the daily thing though, because that seems to make more sense. Because that's what happens is I'll drop, say, $1,500 in Bitcoin one day, and then it usually goes down the next, and I'm like, dang it, I could have had more, And so I think I'd actually almost prefer going on a daily basis, because I think it averages out better.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
and it's automated too, so you don't have to keep in mind when to buy it, and that plays a huge toll on people's minds who aren't trained traders. Because if you have a day job, then you have already something to worry about, and if you have a family, that's even added stress levels, or even just more things to occupy your mind. So if you can automate something that you want to do, then you're freeing up that mind space.
Absolutely.
Mind space and time.
Totally.
One of the biggest things that this business has given us is just our time back. And that's the most valuable. It's the most scarce and valuable asset that you have in your life.
Certainly so.
And what do you now I'm curious about the business. This will be a slight little tangent. How are you guys monetizing right now?
Well, we have a cryptocurrency content company, so we provide referral marketing companies and crypto startups with blogs, guides, review pieces, news pieces, opinion pieces. So we manage a group of 12 plus writers, and we essentially are a content hub.
Super cool.
Yeah.
For anything crypto.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We haven't monetized the podcast, but if anyone wants to send us donations, we're open to that.
Buy us a coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's really cool that's kind of gone that direction. And obviously you're dealing specifically with, you said, crypto startups. Do you take payment in crypto from them?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, so USDT. So any stable coin we accept. Bitcoin.
Except UST.
Yes, I am going to get into that. But yeah.
Except Ethereum or any ERC20 token, which USDT is, but we can accept it on a different network at this point and not pay as many fees. But Bitcoin, USDT, both work. And so does fiat currencies because that helps. That gives us the power to convert it into Bitcoin whenever we want, as opposed to them paying us in Bitcoin.
Right.
But we always accept it if they want to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what's that like with the government at the end
Yeah, I
of
was
the
going to
year?
say, how's tax reporting work?
As a business.
It's a commodity. We have a lot of reporting to do because we have to. You know what? I'm gonna hand this off to Keegan,
because I do it all.
He spent more than 40 hours consolidating all of the numbers.
Yeah, for our personal taxes. But
Yeah.
honestly, our business taxes aren't too complicated. Like I do quite a bit of trading and just learning about the cryptocurrency landscape on my personal side. So they're way more complicated than the business. The business just takes the Canadian dollars, converts it into Bitcoin. It just sits there. And sometimes I take my salary, sometimes in Bitcoin, and sometimes we pay our contractors in Bitcoin. And those are really the only transactions that need to be reconciled. But there's this great program called Coinly with a K, Koinly. And you plug all your addresses in, you hook up all your exchanges through API keys, and then it just reads all your transactions and then spits you out a number that you need to report.
Nice.
Oh.
Ben
That's a lot
Kinden
easier.
really likes this.
You're
Yeah, I'm
making
sure he
it-
does.
I bet.
Keegan, you make it sound too good to be true because in some cases it was. 'Cause,
Yeah, right. Coinly doesn't do a perfect job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then you either need someone like me who knows like how to actually identify or correctly identify the transaction, or convert the data, the exports from the exchanges or the wallets into the correct format. Because if it doesn't classify the transaction correctly, and if it's a big transaction, then you might end up paying like $2,000 on that transaction where you should actually be paying zero.
Ooh.
Right? And so you got to go in manually and alter those tags for Coinly. But
Right.
yeah, I digress. We're
So you
not
have
talking about taxes. This is not exactly
We're hitting everything. Yeah. I want all things. I literally am at the point where we will bring you back on because there's so much to get into, and there's so much content that I want to cover.
We'll do a series.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, I think our
Oh my
listeners
gosh.
would love that.
Yeah.
So I know there's a bit of hate for Ethereum because of the gas fees and all. Do you still collect Ethereum or no?
We
no
sold
Ethereum.
all of it.
Did you?
2 years ago. Yeah, when we were converting everything into Bitcoin, we looked at our portfolio and we're like, why are we holding this? So we converted it
interesting.
into Bitcoin and we're happy.
So why? Like what? Like what's wrong? Like why don't you like Ethereum?
Well, gas fees were not that high at the time that I remember, but ETH 2.0, which is now called
Ethereum upgrades.
the promise of that coming out had been broken multiple times, and the blockchain itself had gotten really heavy, and we were just not very certain about the success of Ethereum in the future. Also, with lots of other blockchains coming up that were doing what Ethereum is meant to do, only better and faster. But even they had their own problems. Like Solana was shut down 4 times
At least. Yeah.
now.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so at that, in 2020, because we were very focused on Bitcoin, and we still are, it just made more sense to consolidate everything into the one asset and bet really big on, or have, what's that asymmetric bet? Yeah. Put an asymmetric bet on the asset that we most believe in instead of have a diversification.
There's also, we would identify some technical risks on Ethereum that someone who's not, so just for context, both of us have a computer science degree. We both can read and write code. We know when we're listening to someone whether or not they're telling a lie, whether or not they're just, this is my sales pitch and here it is, like go buy Ethereum because XYZ reason.
Yeah.
But I used to mine Ethereum. I was mining Ethereum in 2017. I held it through 2018, 2019, 2020. I invested in all sorts of ICOs. I use Ethereum, and then all of these things started to culminate from 2020 onwards, and there was a lot of technical risk. It's like trying to upgrade. What they're trying to do is trying to upgrade a flight while it's in the air.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really tough. So it gives all of Ethereum's competitors a window or an opportunity to build on the ground and launch a better plane, right? That has more capacity, that can carry people
That was a
cheaper.
really eloquent way to explain that. I've never had it explained like that.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum still has a huge network effect, right? It still has a lot of pros that is kind of its tailwinds, right? There's a lot of reasons why it still might succeed.
Right.
But that's not where our mission or our goals and interests are aligned elsewhere. And that's more characteristics of Bitcoin, basically, in one word, where our interests are aligned at the moment.
So what you had said, for example, you didn't believe in Ethereum and it just wasn't for you. What makes Bitcoin the one? what are those interests and goals that align perfectly with Bitcoin for you?
Wow, where do we start? This needs...
Or top three maybe, or, you know.
We could honestly do an entire episode on Bitcoin because there's so many. One of the, I would say, biggest reasons is because Bitcoin doesn't have a founder and it's completely led by the people. And at the time, we were learning about centralization and fiat currencies and inflation. And this was in like the beginning of COVID, right? So I'm not sure if the stimulus checks had already started or if money had already been printed. I feel like there had been more money had been issued. Yeah. We were learning about inflation. And then, you know, number one thing is Bitcoin is not controlled by anyone. No one can just change what Bitcoin's all about. It's solely based on the consensus of more than 100,000 people that are running the code base, which is a lot of people. And it takes away the control of that manipulation of money away from any one entity, which seems to be the case with fiat currencies right now and also some cryptocurrencies. So I would say like that was one of the things. What would you say is your top one there, Keegan?
I'd frame it like this. Like the whole cryptocurrency sphere or everyone involved in cryptocurrencies is actually kind of more or less focused on the same goal, and that's building the next financial infrastructure, right? The next generation of the financial infrastructure. And what we think about Bitcoin is that it's the native currency of the internet, following in what Jack Dorsey might say about it. It's the one internet currency that all of the other internet currencies revolve around, right? So in that sense, it's digital gold. It was here first. You can't replicate the circumstances in which Bitcoin emerged, right? So it emerged with an anonymous founder, was a joke for 2 years, subsequently crashed by 95% after like the largest exchange blew up. It was considered a joke for 3 more years, only after which it started to gain some real momentum to become $1 trillion asset in like 11 years from its inception, right? It's a pretty remarkable story.
Yeah.
To Mrugakshee's point, it doesn't have a founder. And that point of centralization is actually really critical because like if there's a nonprofit organization or a business building a coin, they have some measurable influence on the direction of that coin. And if we were to point to Bitcoin, it's a code base that basically hasn't changed in 10 or 11 years, right? We're running the exact same code, and the monetary policy of Bitcoin is 21 million coins and a block every 10 minutes, and that hasn't changed. And we like that about it. It's like, how much can we rely on this code base not changing? And just to flip it back to Ethereum for a second, they've changed a couple times, and they have more upgrades coming down the pipeline. So our perception is not that Bitcoin is old, archaic technology. It's that it's static and well-rounded technology from the beginning that has never changed. It's a static thing in a constantly dynamic world that we can actually rely on being static.
And to build on top of that, and this speaks as a solution to one of our triggers, which is ownership of our money. And, you know, with Bitcoin, and some would say to some other cryptocurrencies as well, but with Bitcoin, when we own Bitcoin, then it's not an exchange. We own it. We have complete ownership over it. Someone would have to go through a lot of effort to take that away from us. And it would, you know, that's something that we know someone cannot take away from us. So having ownership over something that you worked for and have earned is a remarkable feeling. And that's, you know, one of the, I guess, top 3 reasons why we wanted to switch to Bitcoin. We did.
Right. So I'm going to ask a question. It's going to come across spicy, but separate the politics from what actually happened.
Absolutely.
I'm curious of how it made you feel and what went through your minds with the whole thing happened with the trucker convoy and the freezing of assets. Did that feel like, was that a kind of would that validate your position and how you felt about how money may not just be yours?
It was the best advertising campaign for Bitcoin for Canadians
Certainly
in a long time. Actually, the whole world, because we were in India and that took place. And then I remember being asked a question, I'm not sure by who, but they asked us basically the same question. It's like, what's going on there? Like, can the government really like ask the bank to freeze your bank account based on your political beliefs? That's, you know, more or less what we end up seeing happen. Regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, it actually really doesn't matter. And this is kind of the point that we like to drive home. The power to freeze one's bank account currently is being used by the Liberals. but do you want the conservatives to have that power next?
Right.
And if you're a liberal, the answer is no. And so that's where conservatives are right now. They're like, well, I don't want the liberals to have that power, and vice versa. You just don't create that power. Don't ever give that power to the government. It's the same argument with free speech.
Actually, I was going to say that to preface that the answer to that question. I would say that we are free speech absolutists. And Keegan, you wrote that in one of your newsletters. I really resonated with it because...
Well, the title is called Spending is Speech.
Spending is speech. And if you are a proponent of free speech, there is no asterisks at the end. Like, there's no, you have freedom of speech, except you can't hate speech, or you can't, talk about XYZ things, and you can't do this and that. And that's not really free speech. That doesn't mean we're not against the consequences of saying whatever you want. There's definitely going to be those, but that doesn't mean you just bar people or censor people from speaking what they want. And with, bringing this back to the trucker convoy and keeping the politics aside, freezing someone's bank account because they stand for something that the government doesn't like is crossing a line. And if if the crossing of that line is not rectified right away, then it's only going to get worse in the future, no matter which political party is in power.
Yeah, and just like what that does when you cut off someone's ability to spend their money is well, how do they pay rent? How do they buy food? Maybe they're a mother. And they need to feed their baby.
Yeah.
And they need baby formula or something, right? Maybe they have to pay for their grandmother who is currently in an old folks home. And if you just say, well, you can't spend money anymore, well, okay, suddenly I need to come up with $3,000 a month.
Because my bills still want to be paid.
My bills still want to get paid.
It's punishment for thinking a certain way.
Yes,
it is.
It's control.
Yes.
Yeah, and which, I mean, if Canada wants to call itself a democratic country, then that doesn't go hand in hand, right? Like you're punishing someone for thinking a certain way in a democratic country and freezing their bank accounts for supporting something that the government doesn't support. And, there's just so much to untangle there. Because
it's like out of a movie.
Yeah, it's like 2 + 2 does not equal 4 in that scenario. That's what we have to say about
Facts.
it.
Yeah.
Facts. No, I loved what you said there. It's like, if you want to consider yourself a democratic society, then, this isn't right. And I 100% agree with you. And I think you said it in a very eloquent way. And we really appreciate it.
What you said stuck out to me definitely, which was you don't want either party.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a button that you can just message all the banks, and that just shouldn't exist.
So bring this back to Bitcoin, just for example. For a moment, there are no buttons with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has there's
no admin panel.
Exactly. There's a severe lack of control is the first thing when you're looking into Bitcoin. There's no ability to print money. Doesn't exist. Even if someone wanted to, can't do it.
Right.
Can't freeze someone's bank account. Oh, that was the other thing. Oh, the CBC.
We can go. No, don't get us on the CBC.
Just one, okay? Because they published an article saying...
Daddy, chill.
What was that?
That's me, sorry.
Oh.
They published an article saying that, remember the people... Bitcoin was actually raised to help some truckers, right? They raised something like 16 Bitcoin. And then CBC published an article saying Bitcoin frozen and seized. Seized and frozen. Something like that. Something to that effect. And I read that and I was like, well...
That's not
Bitcoin
possible.
Cannot be either of those things. So I read the article, and they do state that 14 of the Bitcoin had already been given out, and they actually only took 1.6 Bitcoin.
That's because they searched one of the...
they booted the dude's door down. And
No.
made him give over the keys to the Bitcoin, and that's seized. That's not frozen, though. Don't disillusion yourself. You can't freeze Bitcoin.
It's very much still there. You just stole it from that man.
Exactly. Yeah, you stole it. And then bringing this, kind of tying a thread through this whole conversation, one step further into Ethereum.
Yeah.
Ethereum is a platform of tokens. Mm-hmm. It's a token platform for our listeners. And one of the tokens on that platform is one of the largest stablecoins. Stablecoins are tokens that are pegged to real world assets, physical assets like the US dollar. USDT can be frozen. You can actually freeze certain coins on the Ethereum network. It's built straight into the smart contract. There's an admin key, so a centralized one key that can be turned that says freeze that coin in that address right there. And I can give an example of this happening. KuCoin was hacked, a bunch of ERC20 tokens were stolen, and then KuCoin said, hey, and they called up all these other crypto projects and was like, can you freeze that asset, freeze these coins? those are the coins that left our exchange. We need to give them back to users. And it's like, that's arguably a good thing that the users that were stolen from ultimately got their money back.
Yes.
But it's a slippery slope. Like, what other buttons do you want to put on your smart contract that allow
Certainly.
you to do other things, right? Bitcoin's all about censorship resistance and immutability and taking responsibility. Like, we were talking about ownership earlier. One of the core aspects of ownership is actually responsibility. If you own something, you're responsible for it. You're responsible for taking care of it. And that means not putting it in harm's way or in jeopardy of being stolen or frozen or anything like that, right?
Yeah. That's the thing you bring that up is because when I do talk to people about crypto and like I do tell them about how I have a physical nano ledger because I love the ownership piece of it and I want to take care of it. That freaks a lot of people out. Which I thought was interesting. They're just like, no, I really do trust the bank. Just let them have it. And I was like, bro, they're making so much money off of your money. And then if you try to do something that they don't like, they're not going to give you your money.
That's right.
So it's actually not your money. And so what is better? It's a good question. That I thought was kind of intriguing in general. And I'm curious what's going to help people kind of overcome that fear, because I've learned as we can continue on, I'm not going to make this a generational thing, but in general, as we mindset is there tends to be people are scared to take a responsibility for what they have.
Yes.
And they want to give it to somebody else, which gives into a whole other conversation. But I do find that very interesting. I don't know what your thoughts are on that in general, but do you find that as well? Or
speaking of financial advisors, because this is a sort of duty that they have is, okay, give me your money, I will make more money for you.
Yeah.
And
there's lots of good financial advisors out there, by the way.
I think that for some people, it is very hard to acquire the skill or even be responsible for their own money because they're just intelligent in other ways. So I do find how a financial advisor is a solution to that issue or that problem. And Bitcoin is just a solution to a different kind of problem, the one that we had. And that's why we sought after getting Bitcoin, because that's what suited us. The responsibility piece, though, I'm not sure how we're going to, go ahead on that, because what's that headline, Keegan, of the Great Reset? In the future, you will own nothing and be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if the current generations, which I don't think I can speak for, the generation, but if
the trend or tendencies,
of the generation is to not want to own something and not take responsibility for it, then we're headed into a future that is not controlled by ourselves. Like it's not a very self-sovereign future.
And I can't take responsibility for you, on your behalf. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, if I'm a money manager, I can kind of say that that's what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, if I lose your money, I lose your money. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you signed a waiver.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's one of the reasons why, sometimes we help people understand things about cryptocurrency, right? We've done one-on-one consultations with people where they say, hey, can you take my money? And we say, no, but we can actually teach you these things and give you the financial literacy to take your own responsibility and do all of these things yourself. Right. Absolutely. And we like that model. So my opinion is that financial advisors should be teaching you financial literacy. Sure, give them your money, but understand what's happening with your money as well and why they're doing the things they're doing. And if they're buying bonds, then have a conversation
because that's what happens is your financial advisor's making decisions. You don't even know how to interpret them.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And you just assume that you're taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I find very, very interesting because it's a little bit related, but I work for a fintech company and I'm currently working on a project at the moment where we just surveyed 800 people in terms of how they view financial advisors and what their experience is. And then we did kind of more in-depth interviews with one-on-ones. And the question I always kind of ask is what would make you feel like you have more say in your relationship with your financial advisor? And a lot of answers I get back was if I just had more knowledge of finance, I feel like I would have more say in the relationship.
Yes.
And so I think you bring up an interesting point of how if your financial advisor should be giving you financial literacy as you're going and to help you understand where your money is going, how it's working. So you can take care of yourself. And you bring up that point is, you teach someone how to fish, they can eat a whole for a lifetime. Right. And so, I'm a huge believer in that personally. And
as are we.
on that.
I might push back on that a little bit actually, because if see, just being in the shoes of some financial advisors, I'd probably say, well, that's not my job. I'm not here to teach you about financial literacy. I'm here to, use my skills in financial literacy to make you more money.
True.
And if we're talking about shoulds, I honestly feel like that's something that needs to be taught throughout school.
Yeah.
Because, think of someone who just turned 18 and can get an account at a bank, and then they also instantly get a credit card just because, you're in university or whatever.
Yeah.
And talk about the irresponsibility on behalf of the bank for giving someone who's never handled credit a credit card. And that sort of brought us to the problem that we're in right now, at least with respect to Canada, because don't we have the biggest consumer
debt load?
Yeah. And why is that? And who do we blame for that? Or how do we, solve that problem?
Well, we need to take responsibility individually for that, because at the end of the day, our national debt is an aggregate of all of our individual debt, right?
Yes. I know it was. I'm almost processing it because it was just 2 days ago we were doing a show and I was speaking about how at 19 I went to the bank I was 19 and I switched all my banking over to a new bank. They had a great offer for the account and he said, "Do you want a credit card?" I said, "Sure."
Yeah.
And it was a $500 credit card and I thought I can manage $500. In the same conversation, he gave me a $26,000 line of credit. And I went, there we go. I got what I wanted. And, for some reason I can, now I think through learning the hard way, manage finances. But damn, that sucked a lot, If I could change it, I would. But it was my fault. I was an adult, right? By law. That was my problem now.
That's right.
But yeah, I had no idea.
I
I thought I had an idea. Me too, apparently. Oh my gosh. Yeah. An expensive one.
We've learned some expensive mistakes as well. Don't worry. I
Yeah.
think everyone makes them, but no one talks about them.
I know, and to me, I'm like, it's quite validating now that I've spoken with a few people actually this week where they're like, "No, I was screwed at 19. I'm still screwed now," or whatever. And I'm like, okay, it's good. It's good to know you can work to change something, and we've all kind of had that shared experience.
Yeah.
But
we should normalize talking about that and talking about financial mistakes.
I think
right?
if more people had said, "Be careful, this happened to me," like as I was growing up, once I got to university, rather than there were banks set up at the college like to sign you up for credit cards.
Yeah.
Why wasn't there just like an information
remember that.
session on what to do with the credit card once you've got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just thought, wow, it's just the sales. You just want another customer. So your shareholder report looks good as a bank, and that's it. That's all I am.
Gosh, there's so many documentaries on Netflix on how banks have done that, just signing people up, and put the onus on the tellers to meet a certain quota, which is why under that pressure, the bank manager, the tellers have signed up bank accounts, registered bank accounts under the name of their dog and their cat and their dead grandma because they need to meet those quotas. But that's a whole other topic altogether. The way I think they bait you in universities, they tell you that you can get a bonus 1,000 airplane or air
miles,
because they know that there's international students there. There's probably students from out of province and points. Who doesn't love points? Who doesn't? And big numbers too, right?
Keegan, apparently.
Probably.
I don't like points.
Probably 1,000 points equal, I don't know, $10 or something. Which
maybe,
is
right?
Nothing. It's peanuts for the bank. So anyone listening and is in university, be careful when they try to sell you free money.
Yeah, be wary of that.
There's no such thing as free money.
There is no such thing.
Despite our ability to infinitely print money, it's not free.
No free lunch. Someone's got to pay, and it's going to be you. Yeah.
Yeah, now or later when you're like, you can't get a loan and you got to really figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're an assassin. I love it. She goes right for the throat and smiles.
But it's the truth, though. That's the stuff I wish I would have heard.
Yeah,
it is the truth.
Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, having these conversations, I know what your answer is going to be to this, but just because I'm curious, what are your views on XRP and Ripple and all that jazz?
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you said XRP, not Ripple.
Yes, I got you. I got you.
We did an episode on it, and we got so much hate.
We called it Ripple throughout the entire episode.
Oh no!
Unironically,
the XRP army is savage, dude.
Yeah, they
came after us.
It's almost as bad as Bitcoin Maxis, actually.
We don't even consider it as something to be addressed, really. I mean, it has it has the XRP army that probably going to come after us just to say that, but they have made very big promises, and I would say they're fake promises, and they're just fluff, right? They talk about partnerships that they've made with banks and how banks are using them, but they really aren't, and I don't think that it does a lot. It just advertises as that, and definitely gains the trust of people that are reading these tweets and these social media posts and whoever's going on their website, but it's just all fluff.
Right.
I can add some stuff to that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I like to take the decentralization angle and first just dispel the myth that decentralization is a binary marker. It's not binary. Like you don't have...
You either are decentralized or you're not.
No, it's not binary.
Okay.
Yeah. Meaning, like, there's
nuances.
There's nuances.
Yeah.
There's a spectrum of how decentralized you are. Like, is your token supply decentralized? Is your hardware infrastructure decentralized? What's your leadership team like? Are they decentralized? If any one of them left the project, would the project still be fine? Right? What about your partners and who's actually using it? If any one of them left, would your project still be fine?
The nuance that I'd like to point out in that is the definition of the word decentralized, because people think that, you know, decentralized can just mean it's running on a bunch of computers, but if you own that server space, then it's not decentralized.
Or all the server space is like all hosted on Amazon, AWS, then it's not decentralized, because that one actor has control over a multitude of computers that might build a quote-unquote decentralized network, but if one actor holds the keys to that, or if they're all in one warehouse and that warehouse is subject to a power outage, or like there's a whole number of things that go into the equation of making something decentralized. And like the low-hanging fruit for attacking Ripple and XRP is the token supply. Because the token supply, the majority of the tokens are held by, what is it now? They change their name every 3 years. XRP Labs, Ripple Labs, whichever entity is currently doing
Ripple Labs.
Doing Ripple, and they sell it through an auction. And it's very transparent that they're doing this. But I just don't understand why anyone would invest in that. It boggles my mind, and that's fine. I don't need to understand it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's as someone who invests, and I definitely have a good amount of XRP. It's not something like I'm actively like dollar cost averaging into, but you know, if I have some extra money left over, I'll throw some in. I'm trying to get to a point where I have like, eventually I think the goal is I have like about 10,000, 12,000 in that range. Which all isn't really a whole lot in the grand scheme, but like you keep hearing, again, as you said, the lofty promises. I'm like, if they are true, it'll be nice.
Yeah,
and if it isn't,
you believe in them, then it's your money.
Exactly.
It's your prerogative.
I still believe in your right to do what you want with your
right.
money. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with me is like, for me, I'm like, and if it flops, I'm like the $6,000 I have in it, I'm not going to cry about it. Like, whatever.
Let me just steelman my own argument here for a moment and take your side and say like one thing that, like right now, the world's trending towards CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, right?
Yeah,
that's a buzzword.
Which is not the same as Bitcoin.
Which is not the same as Bitcoin.
Pointing to that clip from the political debate. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, if you're watching the political debates, like Canadian, they're confusing CBDCs with digital currencies, with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrencies, and they're all four of them are different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, CBDCs, different countries, other banks. Like Ripple's promise is to be a liquidity provider for international monetary exchange, right? If you see banks getting stronger over the next however many years, and you see Ripple being the liquidity provider of choice for those banks, then like go nuts. If you see that, if that's what you see, that's not what I see, but if that's what you see, go for it.
Yeah.
Right? And great. That seems to be what their mission is on doing. Whereas like take Bitcoin for example, this is an issue of mine. I don't like it when like the Ripple army will try to tell you that Ripple does what Bitcoin's trying to do better than Bitcoin, and what Bitcoin's trying to do is just like completely rewrite the infrastructure of money, right?
Yes.
Redefine what money is in general. Like I have this saying, it's like the next monetary or economic war is not going to be fought over money. It's going to be fought over what we decide to collectively call money.
Right.
What is the thing that we decide to say that's money? Because right now we're saying the US dollar is money.
Yeah.
Well, are we going to say XRP is money? I don't think so. Are we going to say gold is money? We might. Russia just did.
Right.
Are we going to say Bitcoin's money? Well, Mrugakshee and I already made that change. and so did like 100 million other people on the planet. So like that's where we're going. That's where that we've like rewritten or reinstalled the financial operating system in our heads.
Yeah.
We're kind of just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up.
Right.
Wow. I like that last sentence a lot. Waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. That's
because we're early.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, everyone in crypto right now is early. Very, very extremely uncomfortably early.
Is there a comparison to like fiat currency, like the Canadian dollar, of how, because at one point, I mean, people had to adapt currency over gold, like
Sure.
that. So where do you think we are in like the process of it becoming maybe the standard of spending? How far away do you think that is?
We might not ever get to a place where we're spending Bitcoin. Like I see government currencies being borrowed against Bitcoin. Like just
So maybe like a gold standard.
a gold standard, but a digital gold standard. I think in some countries you'll have full blown Bitcoin adoption, but they will be like smaller emerging economies, something like El Salvador,
Yes.
right? But then Canada, United States, like G7 nations with these multi-trillion-dollar economies, I see them buying a bunch of Bitcoin and then borrowing against it, because they can't do fiat forever. That's just, it just won't work. And you speak to a modern monetary theorist or like modern day economist, and they'll explain to you the reasons why I'm wrong, which is great. You should probably have someone on the show to explain why fiat can extend forever. I would listen to that episode because I still need convincing on that front, but I don't know, Mrugakshee, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I'm going to say I actually used to have an answer to this, but that's changed. And I'm looking to be surprised as to what we think the next recognition of money is going to be, because the wild card here is the market.
Yeah.
What the market
Right.
decides will
right.
what we follow and will be what we follow. And there's so many variables at play here that we can't possibly predict, which is why I'm not sure what that transition is going to look like or even be, say, 50 years down the line. And I hope that it's a pleasant surprise, but I'm just going to keep my eye out and be ready for it.
The 50-foot view, I think, is that it's a mixture of everything.
Yeah, because
Right.
what
A
cryptocurrency...
coexistence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because what cryptocurrency gives you is monetary optionality, and that's something that we've talked about before. Is right now, if Canadian dollar is the only way that you got paid for your services, now you can accept Bitcoin. Now, just speaking of us, like Canadian dollars is not the only dollar we accept. We also accept Bitcoin and USDT, and we probably accept something else if someone wants to give us money. And that didn't really exist before. If someone said, "Can I pay you in gold?" and if you were not a bit, conservative business or whatever, you probably would say, "No, I don't really want to get paid in gold. Give me money.
Right.
Like, give me Canadian dollar." And something that we've realized in our travels in the past 6 months is also what we are so used to calling money is very local to our government. So, the US dollar is the world reserve currency. So if you go to, say we were in Central America, and in Guatemala, if you say that you don't have quetzales, which is their currency, and you only have Canadian dollar and you want to pay them in Canadian dollar, they're going to say no, because they're not familiar with it. They probably, haven't really heard of it or seen it enough. But if you say US dollar, everyone's heard of the US dollar.
Yes.
So they would accept the US dollar any given day. Even if you're traveling and you're at an airport, it is likely that you will be able to pay in the US dollar, but they won't accept Canadian dollar. Well, now what's happening is that it is likely that they will accept the US dollar and Bitcoin based on where you're in the world. Definitely in El Salvador, because now it's their legal currency. So like Keegan said, it could be a mixture of everything. And we don't know what that world looks like right now because our payment systems currently are not tuned to accepting all of it and accounting for all of it. So I really wonder how we're going to transition into that sort of economy, but I'm definitely excited for it.
Maybe imagine this. Imagine the customer gets to pay in whatever currency they want, and the merchant gets to receive whatever currency they want.
Mm-hmm. And in between is a processor that
Some
does
service
the calculations.
Exactly. And the exchanges for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That already happens, though, if someone wants to pay you in US dollar or if you're using your credit card.
Yeah.
It kind of happens.
Yeah,
behind
like the
scenes.
technologies there just needs
Yeah.
to grow.
Yeah.
But now I
Interesting.
think that there's a much wider plurality of currency.
Yeah.
Currencies in air quotes.
Yeah, sure. Well, we did mention off the top because we talked about it last week on the show how Canada's trying to develop their own federal dollar, a digital currency, I should say, and so CBDCs. Like, why should people be wary of these things?
Oh, so many reasons. So the first one is ownership, right? Like if we were talking about the Freedom Convoy, the trucker convoy, putting aside the reason why bank accounts were frozen, the act that was possible, there was still one layer because the government gave free rein to the banks to, under the suspicion of activity leading or indicating that they were supporting the Freedom Convoy, they could freeze their assets and bank accounts.
Suspicion was all that was required.
Exactly. But now you're taking out the bank altogether, and the control lies in the hands of the political party in power or the government in power. So,
well, the central bank, and technically they're separate political
supposed to
entities.
be separate.
Yeah, but they have each other.
There's
on
pressure
speed dial.
and
Yeah. So I guess for the correctness of this argument, the power lies in the hands of the central bank at that point, and that could also lead into a social credit system where it's all about control. It's not about ownership anymore, leading even deeper into the whole you will own nothing and be happy, which you can't dictate that to someone. As long as we've been alive, ownership has been a part of what we as humans do in a civilization. So I don't think that's going to work at all. But yeah, that's ownership. CBDCs, control, so many reasons.
So let me put a couple ideas on the table here. Like a CBD could be done well, and I might receive some flack for
I don't think so.
Well, here, let me look. I think if a
about it.
CBDC was as transparent and had as few levers as Bitcoin, like, look, this is the code base that runs our CBDC. Here we can prove to you that there are no lack of controls. We don't have the ability to print money without your permission. Like as a citizen, maybe you get one vote to decide on the direction of the digital currency,
right?
Or like the implementation of new features or the not implementation of new features. Like if it was actually a democratically held thing, an artifact of Canada that each person had one vote over or had a say in the development of, then I could say maybe.
Right.
That gets me to the maybe spot. That doesn't get me to the yes spot. Because I do think Bitcoin solves all the problems. So why would we need a CBDC in Canada if we have something that connects me with economically with anyone in the world ever?
Yeah.
No, but that admin key would still exist, right? Like it wouldn't
That's
be
what I'm saying.
devoid of government.
Like let's not have an admin key.
Governance.
Like can you prove to me that admin key doesn't exist?
Right.
I cannot think of a world where someone in power wants to give up that power.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So they've already proven that they aren't going to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's actually a couple more like interesting things to put on the table here with respect to CBDCs, like programmable money. Here's $1,000. We all had stimulus checks, so maybe we did, maybe we didn't. But like,
we talked about.
We know where you're going. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's go.
Here's $1,000. You can only spend it at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Here's $1,500. It expires in 60 days. You didn't take the vaccine. You don't get the $1,000. You don't drive a Tesla or you don't drive an all EV vehicle by 2025. You don't get this tax credit. Or, we're going to, you live in this neighborhood as opposed to that neighborhood. You make more than this amount of money and the liberals are in power, like tax the rich. All of a sudden, they're going to be able to do that, tax that source.
It's not money at that point. It's a scorekeeping system based on how you behave.
Yeah. It starts. This entire conversation started with us with the digital ID in Ontario, quoting the World Economic Forum as their source, as their model.
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab saying they've penetrated the Canadian caucus.
Yeah. What a word to use.
Penetrated the Canadian caucus with young World Economic Forum leaders.
Shout out Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. Social credit systems and now decentralized funds.
Yeah.
It makes their story look so, but it's so hard not to believe it's not about control.
Yeah. It is about control.
Yeah. I can't think of it any other way. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't have one.
I don't think either. I
agree with you.
I can't. Yeah. I don't see a world where I would want that.
I think we'll get one.
It's
though.
gonna happen.
Me too. Oh, I think it will happen.
Yeah, what scares me the most about the ownership of Bitcoin is right now we can transfer a Canadian dollar to an exchange and then trade it for Bitcoin. But when the Canadian dollar is a digital dollar or a CBDC, then they can just put a
sensor.
A sensor in it or a line in it that says you cannot trade this for Bitcoin.
Yes.
And then what are we going to do? Then we've just lost our freedom to use our money for what we want.
Well, what would you do in that case? Go get USD?
Oh, I'm sure that'd be a black market or
Yeah.
there's
Right.
something.
The peer-to-peer economy would blow up.
It would absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just tends to be what happens anyways. We love that. Free markets will always emerge.
Yeah, they will.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I think like I just for the sake of wanting to break this down for like listeners who don't fully understand what you mean by programmable dollars, like I guess what we can kind of talk about it is essentially like they can put code into these dollars that can dictate what you do with it. Right now, you know, the leader of the country is not going to give you a hard time of where you spend your $10, but
Your tax return may come with instructions.
yeah, essentially, right? And I'll leave that to you because you're the developers. You guys know that background. I just want to break that down a little bit more so people fully understand what that actually means and why CBDC would at least
Specifically
what we've
being
talked about.
programmable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just, okay, imagine the internet in the year 2000 and the complete lack of applications that are around today, right? Programmable money actually and where we're just starting with programmable money, sort of means that we're on the advent of something unanticipatable, right? If you said Facebook exists, Netflix exists, YouTube exists, and there's a billion videos uploaded a day or whatever the metric is.
Back in 2000.
If you said that to someone in the year 2000, they'd be like, get out of here. That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy
Right.
talk, right? So like we actually don't really have the tools to understand what programmable money means. The only reference we have is Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, right? Those are our models, and that's kind of what happens when the free market gets a hold of things. But like what if like a truly nefarious actor or actors or government entity or entity in general gets a hold of programmable money? I don't want to find out.
Yeah, even just to break down the word programmable,
Yeah.
it gives you the ability to put conditions on how your money is spent. And that's essentially what programmers do when building websites or applications. It's just set of conditions that allow the user to be able to click a button and then have a form pop up. But imagine that with money. And the things that we're concerned about is there can be conditions on the money that say, okay, you know, you've earned whatever, $1,500 this month. You are in this tax bracket, which is why I'm going to program the money that you own and is uniquely assigned to you to only spend, $100 on eating out and getting alcohol or whatever, but $1,400 of that money that you've taken home should be spent on living expenses and paying rent and getting gas because that is what you need. And it's essentially dictating to the money that people have supposedly earned and supposedly own to do what the dictator or the program is leading them to do with it.
And then tracking, I would say, is another branch that's really
being
dangerous.
Programmable, yeah.
Which would get lumped right into your social credit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It all just influences your profile, essentially, with your respective nation that you belong to. And like tracking is one thing, but then the assumptions that the analysts make with the data, I think is actually more dangerous. Like, let's just take a random hypothetical scenario. Like, say you're like a typical husband and wife team, 3 kids, but you enjoy beer. Let's just say you like to have 2 beer a night, 1 beer a night, whatever it is. And like you can see that you're using your money, you're buying alcohol every single day. Like, what kind of assumptions can be? Are you an alcoholic? Are you taking care of your kids? Should we call social services?
Right. Will you be a burden on our healthcare system in 10 years?
Exactly.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Are you buying cigarettes? Same question,
Yeah.
right? Like, are you in a position?
The cigarette lobby will.
They'll take
will-
care of it.
Tobacco companies will always
There we
win.
go. Yeah.
Just the oversight, like the big brother mentality. That's
Yes.
probably not a road that we should all go down.
There is an episode that I listened on the JRE Podcast. I think it was 1876 or something with Naajid Nawaz. And he talked about central bank digital currencies. And he has a very unique story and he comes at it from a very different perspective and he explains it perfectly, at least from his point of view. So I highly recommend anyone who wants to learn more about that to go listen to that episode. The person Joe Rogan interviewed was Naajid Nawaz, and yeah, it's somewhere around 1880, sorry. Episode 1880.
Got it.
We thank you guys so much. But yeah, like I wished I had the time because I could go for hours on this. But we really do appreciate y'all coming on. We will have you back on. That's going to happen.
Excellent.
Sure. We hope we haven't overwhelmed you or your audience too much.
Oh, certainly not. I can't speak for the audience, but I'm like loving it. I'm eating it
that's
up.
great.
I'm eating it up.
I know. I think the thing I love about what we're talking about is obviously we want to keep, educating people on the power of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, all these things, but as well is helping people. Like obviously, people get really spicy about politics, and we've hit on a couple topics in tonight to help people understand the kind of what's happening outside of politics, where things are going, and how to why those things aren't good. Because what can tend to happen is people hear, trucker protests, and they immediately tune out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, no, let's
unpack that.
Yeah. What actually happened behind the scenes, and why is that not good for what's going on down the line? And I think we hit on a lot of those topics tonight, which I think I was really happy about.
Yeah.
Really kind of breaking it down, where things are going and how it's not great for us, and how we can try to claim some of that autonomy back.
Yeah.
So we really do
Yeah,
appreciate that.
almost scare people. Really, that's how I think of it.
Yeah, we should be scared.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Especially anytime I hear something that comes out of the World Economic Forum, that terrifies me.
Yeah.
Maybe because I know too much. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Because
No less.
Yeah.
Yeah, do less research.
Yeah.
Read less books.
That's right. But I don't want to be that.
Think less critically of things.
Right.
Just don't think critically, actually. Stop that.
What's scary is there are
Diversity of thought. Come on.
the majority of people don't know what we're saying, or they think we're crazy.
Yeah.
Got a few of those.
Yeah, and it's just and then I sit back and go, it's coming. It's like an unstoppable train.
Yes.
Pay attention, please. But you can only do so much.
For as long as you can watch our podcast.
Yeah, right until we're censored and cut off. Yeah, for speaking on things we shouldn't.
Actually, you can deploy this podcast on the interplanetary file system, and then it's a censorship-resistant podcast, right?
We might have to cover that outside.
Let's
of the
cover that
show,
later.
Keegan. Okay.
We need
Whoa.
We need to talk. That's gonna be good for you guys. But thank you both of you so much for coming
Yes.
on. It really means the
Such
world.
a gift.
Yeah, we are so grateful. And to those who are watching at home or listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Whatever it is you're doing, whether you be trying to buy some Bitcoin,
Or being protected against the World Economic Forum.
or just trying to live your life, whatever it is you're doing,
We love you.
wherever you are, we're out.
Peace.